Welcome to NTD Business. I'm Don Ma. A few things happening today. Parcel delivery firm UPS and the Teamsters Union on Wednesday accused each other of walking away from negotiations. And this is delaying contract talks that covers roughly 340,000 U.S. drivers, package handlers, and loaders at UPS. Contract negotiations broke down early Wednesday, with each side blaming the other for walking away from talks. The two sides need to come to an agreement to prevent a potential strike when the current contract expires at the end of the month. Union officials said Wednesday that UPS, quote, walked away from the bargaining table after presenting an unacceptable offer. But UPS told a different story. It said that it was the Teamsters who abandoned negotiations. Small businesses that rely on UPS could also be left looking for alternative shipping options if the company's remaining workforce wasn't able to meet demand during a strike. The company says it delivers the equivalent of about 6% of the nation's gross domestic product. And vaccine maker Moderna said on Wednesday it has signed a memorandum for opportunities to research, develop, and manufacture mRNA vaccines in China. A Moderna spokesperson says that any medicines produced under this agreement will be exclusively for the Chinese people and will not be exported. Chinese media outlet Yi-Tsai reported on Tuesday that Moderna was set to make its first investment in China that could be worth around $1 billion. Moderna said in May it was looking for opportunities in China after registering a legal entity in the world's second largest economy. The company prior to this had no presence in mainland China. Its expansion into mainland China comes as its revenue growth slows sharply due to waning global demand for its COVID-19 vaccine. Moderna has said that it was keen to sell its mRNA vaccine to China. And Wall Street is drifting lower Wednesday following a previous rally that had sent it roaring 16% higher for the year so far. Other markets around the world also fell more sharply following the latest discouraging signal from China's economy. Growth in China's services industry slowed by more than economists had expected last month. It's the latest evidence showing the world's second largest economy is stumbling in its recovery following the removal of anti-COVID restrictions. The U.S. economy, meanwhile, has remained stronger than many investors feared previously. A report on Wednesday showed growth for U.S. factory orders held steady in May, though economists expect to see an acceleration. On Wall Street, shares of UPS fell as the company tries to reach a deal with the Teamsters Union. And on the winning side was Meta. The company looks to unveil a new app that appears to challenge Twitter. Meta stocks soared nearly 145% this year. The new Twitter rival app is called Threads. It will allow users to retain followers from photo-sharing platform Instagram. It's basically Instagram's text-based conversation app. But will Meta's new app pose a threat to Musk's Twitter? And joining me here is Andrew Salapak, social media professor at the University of Florida. So the new Meta app, Threads, is expected to be released tomorrow. It's supposed to be a Twitter rival. Do you think it has the potential to be a so-called Twitter killer?
I mean, I think a lot of people are overhyping the idea of it being a Twitter killer because we've seen this before with Mastodon, with Blue Sky, with Truth Social, with Parler. Everything's supposed to be a Twitter killer. Now, the difference is that those companies didn't have the financials that Meta does. So the big reason why this is becoming a bigger conversation is because Meta is obviously a huge company with a ton of money, and they can put a lot of money towards this. But at the end of the day, you're still asking people to kind of make a huge switch, to go from the thing they're comfortable with to something completely new. And with the rare exception of TikTok, that often doesn't happen.
So let me ask you this. Instagram has around 2 billion users compared to about 250 million of Twitter. So it's about 10 times bigger already. If my math is correct, if 1 in 10 Instagram users tries Threads, it will overtake Twitter.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people will use Threads. Now, it depends on what they use it for, how often they're using it. You know, a lot of people are on Instagram not because they're trying to necessarily engage in news, conversations, discussions about important topics. That's what Twitter is for. Instagram has been more about a platform where you're sharing photos, and at the same time, it's people that you know. If you think about the average user on Instagram, they follow accounts of people that they know, whereas the average user on Twitter are following accounts of people they don't know. They're following news organizations, celebrities, they're following politicians. So you're asking people to use it to kind of connect with a different group. At the same time, while Twitter is this platform that's very much a one-to-many, you put out a tweet, it's to the world. Instagram, most people are only putting out messages to people they know. They're putting it out to a select group. They know it's not going to go viral. So they're Instagram and Twitter are very different platforms in terms of who we connect to. It's very different platforms in terms of the content that we share. And it's very different in terms of who we're trying to reach. There's not the same virality that you see on Twitter that you might see on Instagram. It's going to get a lot of users, but at the same time, Google Plus did too, and no one uses that anymore for obvious reasons.
And an extension to your point, how does Twitter's user base compare to Instagram's? What are the differences?
Well, it's kind of a little bit difficult to tell right now because Twitter's a bit in flux. One of the reasons why I think Meta is jumping into this right now is they see some weakness at Twitter. And that's why we saw Blue Sky. That's why we saw Mastodon. And they see this weakness of kind of Elon Musk almost making up the rules as he goes along. Whereas I think that one of the things that Facebook and Meta are going to push with Threads is that, hey, come on here, see as much content as you want, scroll as much as you want, post as much as you want. And that is really kind of why it seems like at this moment, they're really kind of throwing this out there. But the users themselves, I think, again, if you think about Twitter, a lot of people kind of are just lurkers. They're looking at content from others, liking content, maybe retweeting content, whereas Instagram's much more about kind of posting content and being much more active. So the users are how they're actually going to engage in the apps, and how they engage in Instagram versus Twitter is already different.
And the other question I have is, does it have to be a zero-sum game, right? In order for Threads to succeed, does Twitter have to lose?
A little bit. And I say that because, if you look at what Facebook and again, Meta has tried to do over the years is they haven't really been innovative in over a decade. When they put out the news feed, that was basically one of the last times they've been innovative. Otherwise, they've either been buying other companies or recreating other companies. And sometimes they're very successful. When they added stories, it kind of has killed off Snapchat. But in adding Reels, they really didn't do anything to TikTok. So, if we just look at past history, could this be the Snapchat killer, or will it be kind of a failure compared to TikTok? I think it will probably fall somewhere in between. People will use it. I think people will try it for a couple days and then kind of go back to the old familiar. The difference, again, is Musk, because Musk has been kind of changing things up, and whether it's having people pay to get verified, changing how many tweets you can see, changing how long how many characters somebody can use, and some accounts leaving, like NPR. You can see where maybe NPR may try to switch to this Threads, and the danger there is that we may see kind of a red Twitter and a blue Threads, where we're kind of dividing up by political allegiance, political alliance. And that's dangerous because now we're even platform-wise putting ourselves into kind of echo chambers and filter bubbles.
Do you think that's the main attraction of Threads, its political orientation? I mean, in your opinion, why would people use Threads over Twitter?
I honestly think that could be where Threads is going to be able to potentially succeed, is to pull those people who say, well, Elon Musk and Twitter is now this right-wing platform, I'm not using it anymore, or using the platform because they're just upset when they no longer had their blue check mark. And that's really where the sort of the danger comes of these platforms separating us politically rather than us being able to engage with others who may have a differing opinion.
And I think this fits into the conversation as well. What do you think of Twitter's new post-viewing limit?
I don't like it, obviously. I do post to Twitter. I'm active on Twitter, but a lot of what I use Twitter for myself is to just kind of see what's going on in the world, following accounts from all over the world and following content from all over the world. For me, as somebody who's a cord cutter, just like many people out there, it's a way to get news and information. And when you limit how many tweets a person can see in a day, it takes away kind of the big value of the platform for a lot of people. I understand that it's being used for data scraping, and that's the argument being made by Musk and Twitter right now. And there is some logic to that. But I think there's a bit of kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face, because this is now being used as a way to attack Twitter and draw people over to this new platform at the exact time when you don't want that to happen.
And do you think this will be substantial?
The amount of people that move over, or?
Right.
Again, it's sort of like with Google Plus. If you had a Gmail account, you had one. Now, this is slightly different. You do have to download a new app. I think people will try it. I think just there's a curiosity factor to it. But at the end of the day, I still think people are going to go back to what they're most accustomed to, and that's been Twitter for such a long time.
And just one final question. Why is it that only one social media platform can survive?
And a part of that's because we already have so many. We already are using so many, and to put a new one into the ecosystem, it really has to have something different. It's got to provide you with something you can't get anywhere else. And that's one of the reasons why TikTok succeeded. It was sort of a Twitter for video, because you could go viral. You could be seen by people who didn't follow you. The way that Thread seems to be kind of introduced right now, it's, hey, follow the people and get their thoughts when you see their pictures. I'm not using Twitter in a microblogging site to just see my friends' thoughts on issues. I want to see what the news are saying, what newsmakers are saying, what elites are saying. Now, if Meta potentially kind of pays some of these elites, pay some of these influencers to make the switch, which is a possibility, they have the money to do it, that's when you could see true competition, and you might see people starting to make a switch. But unless Meta is going to be giving money to people to do it, I just don't see it being something that's going to destroy Twitter.
All right, thank you so much today, Andrew. Pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.